On this third Sunday of the Easter season, because Easter is a season and we are still in the midst of it, we are in this third Sunday of the Easter season, and we have these two wonderful stories that are rich with our history as a faith tradition, and so important. One of those in the gospel reading we just heard, talking about Peter and this re-engagement with the mission that Jesus has called them to. And we compare that in this opportunity today to what we heard from the Acts of the Apostles, from Paul. One in Peter is an apostle from the beginning. Paul is hunting them down and later converts. So looking at these two different people, these two men that both struggle with who this person Jesus is and what is their relationship, gives us, I think, some insight into the struggles of the early church around how to understand who could be a part of the community and how that could happen. How did you get entry into that community? Did you just have to be an apostle? So, for a moment, consider this story that we have around Paul. Paul really is this person who describes himself as sort of uber Jew. He says about himself, I am like a Pharisee among Pharisees. I am Superman when it comes to understanding what righteousness law is, what purity code is. There is no one better than me who I could argue against within our faith tradition. So Paul really says that about himself. And me, this person who's a Pharisee among Pharisees, will now deconstruct all of that in order to understand the nature of this particular Messiah that we have in front of us in Jesus. And he has this amazing transformative experience. He's literally has hunted down the people who are people of the way, which is how the Christian community was initially described, people who follow the way. And he's hunted them out of Jerusalem pretty well. And they have now gone into other areas or been a little bit more quiet. And one of the places they've gone is Damascus. It's 135 miles away from Jerusalem. It takes a while to get there on foot, if you've hiked 135 miles anywhere. And yet Paul is determined to hunt them down there. And he gets permission from the Sanhedrin to do that. He is known as sort of the lion among those who are hunting out these people of the way. And he follows and he goes down to Damascus, or up to Damascus, excuse me. And as he's traveling there, he has this amazing experience. Somehow, this journey is one of transformation for him. And we have the story of Ananias, who at the same time receives this image from God to go and find Paul. The people of the way knew that Paul was a person who was out persecuting them. They heard the story of the stoning of Stephen, the first martyr of the church, Deacon Stephen, in Jerusalem. And they knew that Paul was a part of that. They knew that he was hunting for them. And this is the very person that Ananias receives the message to go and be with and find. So these two men have this interaction where Paul is at his most vulnerable. He can't see. He doesn't know where he is. And the people who are willing to care for him, who are, because remember, in the purity code, if something's wrong with you physically, it's because you've done something wrong and God doesn't love you anymore. That's what that means in the purity tradition that he represents. No one's touching him because they too could become impure. But here comes Ananias and the Christian community, the people of the way in Damascus, and they take care of him. And Ananias cares for him at his most vulnerable, when they could take advantage of that and get rid of him once and for all. But they don't. In that experience is where I believe this transformation truly takes an incarnated form for Paul, being cared for by the very people that he is out to kill. But they don't hold him back in the same way he's thinking of them. And that experience of being cared for, unconditionally cared for, treated on the side of the road, like the Good Samaritan story, that he is embraced and accepted. That experience itself, I think, takes him in a whole new way of understanding relationship with God and the way that Christ introduces it. Now, we compare that to what's happened here in this gospel story with Peter. The one thing I want to do is set this where this is around the Sea of Galilee. It's kind of around the north and eastern part or shore of the sea, also known as the Sea of Tiberias, as it's referred to in the gospel reading today. And what we have is this wonderful account of this is the third time they see the resurrected Jesus. All these different stories talking about how the community understands Christ after his death and how they continue to be in relationship. There's several symbolic actions. I want to lift out a couple of them in this story. First of all, where this is located, if you were to go to Galilee today, to a pilgrimage, and see where this story is associated by the locals through time and generations, it is called Peter's Primacy. The Church of Peter's Primacy is a beautiful stone church, small church. The architect has built it around an outcropping of rocks on the shore. It's very close to the shore. Probably about as close as where I'm standing now to where the choir is. That would be the Sea of Galilee, and here's the church. And in that church, the stone outcropping that's preserved as up where the altar area is, and the altar's literally built right by it, is the rocks associated where the apostles encountered Jesus and the roasted fish and the bread. And they're all picnicking on this rock. The symbol there is Peter, who is known as the what? The rock. Yes. So that's why it's called Peter's Primacy, where he is sort of lifted up by the early church as sort of being recognized as the leader in that church of this band that is left over. So when they're having this gathering around the rock, when you walk on that beach today, it's one of the few places around the whole Sea of Galilee where you have easy access to the water because there's a lot of plant life right up to the edge. Makes it challenging and boggy. But right here on this beach, when you kind of stoop down and pick up some of what you see on the beach, it's not sand. It's little tiny seashells of different kinds that are from that freshwater lake. So you can pick it up by the handfuls, these little tiny remnants of life. And for me, that also is telling about what is it to be on the shores of a living ecosystem that not only supplies water to the communities around it, but is itself alive and supporting so much life. And yet on these shells, on this remnant place, is where the early church takes off. Because here's what's happened. They've had the experience of Jesus' crucifixion. They've had the experience of the upper room when they're trying to figure out what do we do next. And the Holy Spirit kind of comes and inflames their hearts for love and to continue his teaching and mission. And yet, what happens? Peter and several of the apostles go back to where they began. They go home. They go back to Galilee. They go back to what they were even doing. It's telling that Peter says, I'm going to go get some fish. I'm going to go fishing. He's returning again. It's almost like this sense of giving up on everything they just profoundly experienced in the aftermath of Christ's death. I'm going to go fishing. What a temptation to return to what was comfortable and familiar, to go home, to be comforted. So as he goes out and does that, people go, yeah, we will too. I go, hear that sort of that. And they go back. But they're not successful because that's not what they're supposed to do. And here they have this experience of the risen Christ. I love how they figure it out, but they don't say anything. It's him. Should we tell him it's him? Should we admit that it's him? This is kind of freaky. But they eventually have this invitation by the risen Christ to come and have breakfast. Get over yourselves. Come and have breakfast. Let's talk about this. And Jesus is always doing that. Gathering the community around the meal and fellowship. Gathering the community. Because the people of the way are not people who are asked to kind of go off on our own and just have our own experience of God on our own only. We're a people of faith community. We come on a Sunday, kind of literally assembling Christ's body on a Sunday. Because part of what's so nourishing and important is the experience of community, of faith community. We know through the recent experiences with what David Spring has been through, how redemptive and valuable the community is in the life of the individual. That kind of redemption, that kind of reconciliation, that kind of inclusion can't happen without that experience. Peter and his mates are not supposed to stay there at home. They're supposed to take what they've learned from Christ and be people of the way. Be on the way. Go away. Go out into the world and take this message of hopefulness, of healing, of acceptance into the world, places where people don't have those experiences. Because it isn't only just the experience of the righteousness and purity code that alienates everyone. And Paul is a part of not just alienating people who are not righteous, he's a part of condemning them to death because of that purity code. And believe me, you know and probably hear how the purity code continues to lift its head and inform much Christian tradition today, and continues to send out messages of alienation, of condemnation, of judgmentalism. You're not good enough, you're not good enough. And it's like the way is reinterpreted in the very things that Jesus is standing up against. The way is interpreted as though we're on a journey of judgmentalism, trying to achieve an unachievable perfection. Judgmentalism towards perfection. No. What Jesus and Paul and Peter all come to is the experience of being on a journey of authenticity towards acceptance. That authentic living, of authentically saying who we are and what our experiences are and what our woundedness is and where we struggle and where we fail and where we get up. The way is also the way, the cross. And it isn't toward perfection. It's toward getting to a place of acceptance. Accepting who we are as we are. Working on owning who we are. And then acceptance is something that we can achieve, but we can only achieve it together by giving it to each other. Accepting each other exactly how we are and how healing and embracing that is. When Jesus says to Paul 3 times, "Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me?" It almost sounds kind of like, are you obsessed? Why do you have to be so loved, you know? But what he's doing there is 3 times extending a graceful opportunity of redemption that mirrors the 3 times that Paul denied Christ on Good Friday. Don't know him. I don't know him. I tell you, I don't know him. Do you love me? Yes. Do you love me? Yes. Do you love me? Yes. And that is all it takes. It's not about codes of purity. It is about love of God. It is not about exclusion. It is about acceptance. It is not about judgmentalism. It is about authenticity. And we do that together. The way of love is the way of the community. And our community can say to other communities, no, 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 no. Yes, yes, yes. In Christ's name.